Don't skip your nickels. They could be worth way more than 5 cents. The 1968 and 1969 Jefferson nickels can have rare mint errors like missing mint marks or double dies worth hundreds, and the 2005 Lewis and Clark Westward Journey nickel. Collectors love it for its unique design and rare die varieties. Check your nickels, you might be holding hidden treasure in 1969. The Jefferson nickel was as ordinary as the sound of loose change jingling in a pocket. Millions of Americans used it daily to buy coffee, newspapers, or candy for their kids. It was small, simple, and overlooked. Yet, hidden among those countless nickels struck at the U.S. Mint that year were a few extraordinary coins that defied the standard of perfection the Mint aimed for. They were coins with errors, small deviations that turned routine pieces of metal into coveted treasures. Today, certain 1969 Jefferson nickel error coins have become symbols of rarity and fascination, with some examples selling for astonishing amounts, ranging from $60,000 to as much as $155,110, depending on condition, variety, and collector demand. To understand how such a simple coin could become so valuable, we have to look closely at what the 1969 Jefferson nickel represents. The design itself dates back to 1938, when Felix Schlage's artistic depiction of Thomas Jefferson was chosen to replace the Buffalo nickel. The obverse features Jefferson's dignified portrait, while the reverse displays his home, Monticello, an image that embodies American history and legacy. By the late 1960s, the nickel was being struck in huge numbers, with mints in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco working around the clock to meet the nation's demand for currency. The minting process is a dance of precision and power. Blanks, known as planchets, are fed between two dies under immense pressure to form the design. Each die carries the mirror image of the coin's design, one for the obverse and one for the reverse. But even in a system as advanced as the Mint's, human and mechanical errors can occur. Dies wear out, get misaligned, or are incorrectly hubbed. When that happens, small mistakes can lead to coins that differ ever so slightly from the millions of others produced that year. Those subtle mistakes are what collectors call mint errors, and they're the reason a few lucky 1969 nickels now command six-figure prices. One of the most fascinating 1969 nickel errors involves the double die variety. This occurs when the die itself is struck twice during preparation, but slightly out of alignment. As a result, the finished coin shows doubling on its design elements, letters, numbers, or even parts of Jefferson's face. Imagine looking at the date 1969 and noticing a ghostly shadow of the numbers just slightly offset beneath the main ones, or spotting a faint duplicate of the words, "In God We Trust." That doubling isn't damage. It's a glimpse into the coin's creation, a frozen moment of imperfection. Such coins are highly sought after by collectors because they're rare, visually striking, and difficult to replicate. Other 1969 Jefferson nickel errors include off-center strikes, where part of Jefferson's portrait is missing because the planchet wasn't properly aligned during striking. Some show die cracks, thin lines running across the surface like veins in marble, caused by stress fractures in the die. Others may have missing clad layers, creating an unusual color or texture that sets them apart. Each of these errors has its own story, and together they tell a broader tale of the minting process itself, one where precision meets unpredictability. What truly drives the value of these coins, though, is a combination of rarity, condition, and demand. A common 1969 nickel in circulated condition might be worth 5 cents or maybe a little more to a casual collector. But a 1969 nickel with a major, clearly visible error, especially one verified by professional grading services, can command enormous sums. In some auctions, high-grade specimens of dramatic error nickels from this year have sold between $60,000 and $155,110. That kind of value comes from the perfect storm of rarity, story, and condition. Collectors love coins that tell a story, and error coins tell one better than most. They're tangible reminders that even in an age of machines and mass production, human oversight and chance still play their parts. When a 1969 nickel comes out with a misaligned strike or a double die, it's not just a manufacturing flaw. It's a historical accident preserved in metal. These coins stand as evidence that perfection is an ideal, not a rule. And in numismatics, it's often the imperfection that makes something truly valuable. Consider the experience of a collector discovering one of these treasures. Imagine a person sifting through an old coffee can of nickels, something passed down from a parent or found in a forgotten drawer. They pick up one coin that looks just a little off. Maybe the lettering seems thicker, or the edge feels slightly uneven. They grab a magnifying glass and start to examine it closely. Under the right light, the doubling on the numbers jumps out, crisp and undeniable. In that instant, their heart skips a beat. The coin that once sat unnoticed for decades suddenly becomes something worth thousands, maybe even a life-changing amount. For serious collectors, finding a coin like that is more than luck, it's validation. It proves that patience, observation, and curiosity can lead to incredible rewards. And as word spreads about a rare 1969 nickel error surfacing in the market, others start looking too. That's the magic of this hobby. It fuels curiosity, excitement, and hope that somewhere out there, another one might still be hiding in plain sight. The process of authentication is critical. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC carefully examine each coin, confirming whether the error is genuine and determining its grade based on wear and strike quality. A 1969 Jefferson nickel with a strong doubling effect, full details, and minimal marks might earn an MS-65 or higher grade, pushing its value toward the top end of that $155,110 range. Conversely, one with heavy wear or weaker doubling would still be desirable, but likely worth much less. For collectors, that grade isn't just a number. It's a reflection of rarity and condition combined, a measure of how close a coin is to perfection even in its imperfection. The market for error coins has grown tremendously in recent years, fueled by social media and online auctions where collectors share discoveries and bid competitively. Stories of everyday people finding rare coins in their pocket change inspire others to start searching. The idea that a simple nickel could be worth tens of thousands of dollars captivates people of all ages. Every jar of old coins becomes a treasure chest of possibilities. The 1969 Jefferson nickel error coins also stand out because of the era in which they were made. The late 1960s were a transitional period for U.S. coinage, marked by changes in metal composition, minting technology, and production scale. These shifts made it easier for small mistakes to slip through unnoticed, especially as the mint pushed to meet high demand. Each error coin from this time reflects that historical context, a tangible reminder of the challenges of mass production in an evolving industrial system. Collectors who own these coins often describe them as conversation pieces. They draw attention not just for their appearance but for what they represent, a fusion of art, history, and chance. A 1969 nickel with a dramatic doubling or an off-center strike isn't just valuable because it's rare. It's valuable because it tells a story that no other coin can tell. It's a fragment of American history captured in metal, with every flaw serving as a reminder of the delicate balance between precision and human error. If you ever come across an old Jefferson nickel, don't dismiss it too quickly. Take a closer look at the date, the lettering, and the details of Jefferson's face. If something seems off, if the date looks doubled, the design feels shifted, or the edge appears uneven, it might be worth examining further. Even small details can make a big difference. Some of the most valuable 1969 nickel errors were discovered by ordinary people simply paying attention. These coins are more than just collectibles, they're symbols of possibility. They remind us that hidden among the ordinary are pieces of extraordinary value, waiting to be recognized. The next time you empty your pockets or sort through a handful of change, remember that the next big discovery might already be in your hands. Somewhere, another 1969 Jefferson nickel with a rare error could still be out there, waiting to be found. And for the lucky individual who discovers one in mint condition, the reward could be staggering. Perhaps even in the range of $60,000 to $155,110. That's the beauty of numismatics. It transforms the ordinary into the remarkable, and the smallest imperfections into treasures of history. The 1969 Jefferson nickel is proof that every coin has a story, and sometimes that story is worth far more than its face value. In 2005, the United States Mint released a coin that wasn't just another 5-cent piece. It was a tribute to one of the most daring and defining moments in American history, the Lewis and Clark expedition of 1805. This nickel, part of the Westward Journey series, was created to honor the spirit of exploration, courage, and discovery that helped shape the United States. But while millions of these nickels were produced for circulation, a few slipped through the minting process with rare, mysterious, and captivating errors, turning what should have been an ordinary coin into a collector's dream. Today, these rare 2005 Lewis and Clark nickel error coins are fetching astonishing prices, sometimes reaching anywhere from $43,000 to $125,000, depending on the error type and condition. And the best part? Some of them could still be sitting unnoticed in someone's old coin jar or change drawer, waiting to be discovered. The 2005 nickel stands out because it wasn't just about design. It was about legacy. The U.S. Mint created it as part of a series celebrating the 200th anniversary of the Lewis and Clark expedition, which mapped and explored the vast western territories of the United States after the Louisiana Purchase. The reverse design, crafted by Joe Fitzgerald, featured two hands, one Native American, one of a member of the expedition, clasped in friendship beneath the words, Lewis and Clark 1805. This powerful image represented the meeting of cultures, cooperation, and the shared journey into the unknown. On the obverse, a modernized image of Thomas Jefferson, created by sculptor Joe Fitzgerald, gave the coin a bold, fresh appearance. It was a blend of old and new, a reminder of America's pioneering past and forward-looking spirit. But as history has shown time and time again, when millions of coins are struck at high speed, perfection isn't always guaranteed. Somewhere during the 2005 production runs at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, small mechanical and alignment issues created some remarkable minting errors. These weren't just minor flaws. They were stunning anomalies that transformed regular 5-cent coins into valuable treasures. One of the most talked about errors found on the 2005 Lewis and Clark nickel is the off-center strike. This happens when the blank coin planchet isn't properly seated in the coining chamber, causing the dies to strike it unevenly. The result is a coin where part of the design is missing, and a blank crescent of metal appears on one side. In some of these 2005 error nickels, Jefferson's portrait is pushed far to one side, and part of the handshake on the reverse disappears into the rim. These off-center errors can range from slight misalignments to dramatic shifts, and the more off-center the strike, while still showing the full date and mint mark, the more valuable the coin becomes. Collectors have paid thousands for these, and pristine examples with major off-centering have sold for well over $43,000. Then there are the double-struck errors, which are breathtaking to look at. This error happens when the coin is struck twice, or even multiple times, either with a slight shift or a complete rotation between strikes. Imagine Jefferson's face appearing twice, slightly overlapping, or the handshake on the back doubled like a ghostly image. It's mesmerizing. These coins are incredibly rare because such an error requires a mechanical malfunction or a momentary failure in the coin ejecting process. Each double strike is unique, and collectors love them for their one-of-a-kind appearance. When certified and graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC, these coins have fetched tens of thousands of dollars at auction, sometimes reaching prices as high as $125,000 for perfect double-struck examples with clear details on both impressions. Another fascinating mint error from this series is the clipped planchet error. This occurs when the blank piece of metal used to make the coin is accidentally cut incorrectly during the manufacturing process. The result is a coin with a crescent-shaped bite missing from its edge. These errors are visually striking and easy to identify, and collectors are particularly fond of them when they occur on modern commemorative designs like the 2005 Lewis and Clark nickel. Depending on the size and location of the clip, and the overall condition of the coin, values can range into the tens of thousands of dollars. There are also die break and die crack errors that make certain 2005 nickels unique. Over time, the immense pressure used to strike coins can cause small cracks in the dies. When these cracked dies are used to strike more coins, the result is raised lines or blobs on the surface of the coin, almost like veins of metal that don't belong. On some 2005 Lewis and Clark nickels, die cracks appear across Jefferson's cheek, near his eye, or along the edge of the handshake on the reverse. Each crack tells a small part of the coin's production story, a flaw that adds character, uniqueness, and value. Larger die breaks, sometimes called cuds, where part of the die literally breaks away, can make these coins even more sought after by collectors. And then there's one of the most mysterious and valuable types of mint errors, wrong planchet errors. This happens when a coin is accidentally struck on a blank meant for another denomination. For example, a few 2005 nickels are believed to have been struck on planchets intended for pennies or dimes. These wrong metal coins are extremely rare, but when found and authenticated, they become instant numismatic treasures, worth tens of thousands of dollars due to their extreme rarity and unusual appearance. Imagine holding a nickel that weighs less than it should or looks a bit too silvery because it was struck on the wrong metal. It's a collector's dream. What makes the 2005 Lewis and Clark nickel particularly fascinating is how its historical theme blends with these accidental minting stories. The Lewis and Clark expedition itself was filled with unexpected challenges, unpredictable discoveries, and remarkable moments of chance. So it almost feels poetic that the coins commemorating it ended up with their own accidental quirks. Each error coin tells its own tale of imperfection, a small echo of the adventure and unpredictability that the explorers themselves faced over 2 centuries earlier. For collectors, the thrill of finding one of these error nickels goes beyond the financial reward. It's about the discovery. Many people have found rare 2005 error nickels purely by chance, while searching through rolls of coins from the bank, old collections, or even spare change. Some have sent them off for professional grading only to discover that what they thought was a minor flaw was actually a major minting error worth thousands. It's this possibility of finding hidden treasure that keeps the world of coin collecting alive and exciting. If you ever come across a 2005 Lewis and Clark nickel, there are a few signs to look for. Examine both sides under bright light or with a magnifying glass. Look for doubling in Jefferson's features or the lettering, especially in Liberty and In God We Trust. Check for off-center designs where the rim is thicker on one side and thinner on the other. Inspect the handshake closely for die cracks, blobs of extra metal, or missing details. Flip the coin over and pay attention to the edges. If there's a small curved bite missing, it might be a clipped planchet. And if the color or weight seems unusual, it could be a wrong planchet strike. When authenticated and graded in mint state condition, these coins are among the most desirable modern errors on the market. Collectors and investors alike are drawn to their blend of historical significance and rarity. A coin that once represented 5 cents of everyday commerce can suddenly become a centerpiece of a high-end collection, commanding staggering prices in auctions and private sales. Stories of 2005 Lewis and Clark nickels selling for over $43,000 to $125,000 aren't exaggerations. They're proof of how the smallest mistake at the mint can turn into a massive reward decades later. The story of this coin also reminds us that not all treasures come from the distant past. You don't need a 19th century gold coin or an ancient artifact to find value. Sometimes, it's hidden in the coins we've used in our own lifetimes. The 2005 Lewis and Clark nickel stands as a perfect example of how history, craftsmanship, and accident can combine to create something truly extraordinary. It's a coin that bridges centuries of exploration, one born from the spirit of discovery in 1805 and reborn in 2005 with a design meant to honor that same daring journey. And with its rare mint errors, it continues that tradition by giving modern collectors their own sense of adventure, searching for that one rare find that could change everything. In 1968, America was going through a time of great change. The country was full of tension, hope, and transformation, and amid that historic backdrop, the U.S. Mint was busy producing the everyday coins that people used without a second thought. Among those coins was the Jefferson nickel, the humble 5-cent piece that had been in circulation since 1938. Most of the 1968 nickels looked exactly as they were supposed to: Thomas Jefferson's calm, noble profile on one side, and his beloved home Monticello on the other. But hidden among the millions minted that year were a few that defied expectations. Coins born from mistakes, from moments of imperfection that turned into treasures. Today, those rare 1968 Jefferson nickel error coins are worth staggering amounts of money, with some selling between $62,000 and $160,500, depending on their rarity, condition, and type of minting flaw. The Jefferson nickel has always carried a certain charm. It's simple, yet classic, a portrait of one of the founding fathers who represented intellect and innovation. By 1968, the U.S. Mint was striking coins not only at Philadelphia, but also in Denver and San Francisco. This was also the first year after mint marks made their return since being removed in 1965 during the coinage crisis. The D and S marks once again appeared beneath the date, indicating where each coin was made. It seemed like a year of restoration and precision, but even precision has its limits. That year, a number of striking errors occurred. Some of the 1968 Jefferson nickels were minted with off-center designs, doubled dies, or even struck on the wrong planchets. These rare mistakes happened in the blink of an eye, fractions of a second where the dies misaligned or the wrong blank was fed into the press. Yet those tiny slips would go on to create some of the most valuable nickels collectors dream of owning. One of the most captivating errors from 1968 involves nickels struck on a dime planchet. Imagine holding a coin that looks and feels slightly off. It's smaller, thinner, and the rim seems incomplete. The details of Jefferson's face appear cramped, the inscriptions cut off at the edges, and the reverse design of Monticello barely fits. To the average person, it might look like a defective coin, but to a collector, it's a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Coins like this, authenticated by grading services such as PCGS or NGC, have fetched breathtaking prices, with certain examples selling for over $100,000, depending on how visible the error is and how well-preserved the coin remains. Other examples of the 1968 Jefferson nickel showcase dramatic off-center strikes. Some are just slightly misaligned, while others are so off that part of the design is completely missing. When the strike is about 50% off-center but still shows the date, collectors go wild for it. The combination of rarity and aesthetic appeal, where you can see both the error and the year, makes it incredibly desirable. These off-center nickels often fetch tens of thousands at auction, especially when in high mint state condition with sharp luster and detail. Then there are the double die errors, where details like the word liberty, the motto "In God We Trust," or the numbers in the date appear doubled, almost like a shadow etched into the metal. This happens when the die that imprints the coin shifts slightly between strikes, creating that doubled image. Some 1968 double die Jefferson nickels are subtle, while others show a striking separation that's immediately noticeable. Collectors call these strong double dies, and they can be worth small fortunes, sometimes well over $62,000 when verified and well-preserved. A particularly rare type of error for this year involves full or partial blockage strikes. This happens when one freshly struck coin sticks to the die and impresses its reversed image onto the next blank. The result is a mirrored design, distorted and fascinating. A clear minting accident that makes every blockage coin one of a kind. These pieces don't just appeal to Jefferson nickel collectors, they attract anyone passionate about the artistry and unpredictability of minting errors. Another layer of interest comes from the S Mint nickels from San Francisco. In 1968, the San Francisco Mint primarily focused on proof coin production, coins made with mirrored surfaces and struck multiple times for collectors. But even among these carefully crafted proofs, a few errors slipped through. A proof coin with a minting flaw is exceptionally rare because of the tight quality control. A 1968 S Jefferson nickel proof with a dramatic mint error, like a double die or a strike-through from foreign material, can easily reach prices approaching $160,500, making it one of the most expensive nickels ever to leave the mint. For collectors, what makes the 1968 Jefferson nickel so appealing is its position in history. The mint was transitioning to new machinery, experimenting with better quality controls, and refining die preparation methods. But in that process of modernization, small missteps occurred, ones that would later turn into incredible rarities. When you hold one of these coins, you're not just holding a piece of metal, you're holding a physical record of that moment in time when technology and human oversight intersected. Imagine, for a moment, someone in 1968 receiving change from a grocery store. Maybe a young man just back from Vietnam, or a mother buying milk and bread, unknowingly pocketing one of these error nickels. It might have sat in a drawer for decades, or ended up in a jar of loose change. Years later, perhaps someone sorting through old coins spotted something odd about it. The rim uneven, the strike off, the design strange. That small moment of curiosity could lead to an incredible revelation, that the coin in their hand, a simple nickel from 1968, was worth tens of thousands of dollars. Stories like that aren't just legends, they've happened. One man from the Midwest discovered a 1968 D. Jefferson nickel with a visible double die while examining an inherited collection. When it was graded and authenticated, it fetched over $75,000 at auction. Another collector stumbled upon a 1968 nickel struck on a foreign planchet, its color and weight slightly different, and sold it privately for nearly $120,000. Each coin tells its own unique story, a story born from a brief imperfection at the mint that later transformed into numismatic history. The emotional thrill of finding an error coin is unlike anything else. For serious collectors, these coins are not just investments. They're treasures. They represent luck, patience, and the thrill of discovery. Every year, more people begin searching through their change, looking closely at nickels, quarters, and dimes from the 1960s and 1970s, hoping to find their own life-changing coin. Experts often recommend that if you have a 1968 Jefferson nickel, especially one with an odd appearance, it's worth getting it checked by professionals. Even small differences, like an extra thick rim, uneven lettering, or slight misalignment, could indicate an error. Once authenticated, these coins not only gain legitimacy but also drastically increase in value. Collectors worldwide are willing to pay top dollar for genuine 1968 errors, especially those with clear visual appeal. Over time, the 1968 error nickels have proven to be among the most sought after in the Jefferson series. Their rarity, historical timing, and aesthetic uniqueness give them unmatched charm. It's fascinating to think that what was once dismissed as a flawed product is now a prized collectible. In fact, as more of these coins are discovered and certified, their prices have continued to rise, proving that demand far exceeds supply. When you look closely at one of these rare 1968 Jefferson nickels, you can't help but marvel at its journey, from a minting mistake to a six-figure treasure. It's a reminder that even in a system built for precision, beauty often emerges from imperfection. Every mark, every misalignment tells a story of how something went wrong, and yet somehow turned out exactly right for collectors decades later. So the next time you come across a 1968 nickel, don't overlook it. Flip it under the light, look at the edges, the inscriptions, and the surface. That small coin could be more than just 5 cents. It could be a piece of American minting history, a hidden masterpiece that once slipped unnoticed into circulation. And if you happen to hold one of those extraordinary error coins, you might just be holding something worth between $62,000 and $160,500, a tiny piece of imperfect perfection that proves even the smallest things can have unimaginable value.